Hi guys, I have a new setup, as you can tell. It was way too hard to have all my lights and stuff in my room, so I moved it to my basement. And now my brother is being a Nazi about it because he thinks that just because he cleaned the basement means that he gets to reign terror on it and he is king of the basement. Well, that's not gonna happen. As you can tell, I already have my face done. I was kind of planning on doing a story time for you guys. I don't know if I posted this video yet, but in one of my videos I asked if you guys wanted to hear a story time about the time I fell off a boat. So I'm gonna tell you that story today, so buckle your seatbelts. So if you want to hear about an actually 100% true story of how I fell off a boat and got run over, stay tuned. So to begin this story, I'm just gonna give you some background. It was the summer going into my 9th grade, so I think it was 2012. I don't know, I really don't feel like sitting and thinking about what day it was. So I was on vacation in Michigan with my family. I have a brother named Joseph, my mom and my dad, and we had rented a cabin for my dad's work friend, and he had a pontoon boat there. And we're not boat people, we've never owned a boat. The only time we've been on a boat is when we used to go on vacation with my mom's brother, so my uncle. He has a boat and we would just ride on it, like none of us would drive it or anything like that. So when we used the pontoon boat in Michigan, we didn't really know what we were doing, but obviously knew enough to drive the boat, which my dad was doing the whole trip. And we couldn't get it to go past like 15 miles per hour. So my mom wanted to sit on the front of it, I guess, like past that little part where you can open the gate and it says do not cross. Well, my mom sat on the front of that with her feet in the water, just kind of tanning almost. Ignore my arm, I was cleaning my brushes on it. So anyways, we could only get it to go like 15 miles per hour the first 3 nights we were there, and me and my brother would sit on the front of it with our feet in the water. And I don't know if I've said this already, but it was a pontoon boat, so it was elevated off the water, and then it was on the 2 little floaty contraptions. So there's like a big space in the middle, and we were sitting on the front of it with our feet in the water. I hope that makes sense. If you don't know what a pontoon boat looks like, just Google it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyways, it was the day after 4th of July, and it was really hot. And this day we finally got it to go faster, but my parents really weren't concerned about making sure we weren't sitting on the front because we still didn't really know, like, hey, that's a really bad place to be in a boat. So it's really kind of hard to remember this day exactly. Alright guys, my brother was down here and then I ate dinner and then my brother wouldn't leave me alone. So I'm back. I don't really know where I was in that story, but I believe I was talking about how I don't exactly remember everything from that day because I lost blood, obviously. Get to that later, but I was in shock. So I guess I filled in some blanks in my head, and when I talked about this story with my mom later on, she would tell me like, hey, that never happened, or no, it happened like this, and she would just help me fill in the blanks. So I guess I made stuff up in my head, which is really weird, but it's kind of cool, I guess, science. So anyways, I was in shock, so it's hard to remember exactly 100% details from this day. So I believe it was at the part where the day it actually happened, when we were on the boat, me and my brother sitting on the front, and we finally got it to go as fast as the pontoon boat could go. So I don't know if that's 30, 40 miles per hour, somewhere around there. I'm not even sure at all. But to this day, we don't know what happened for sure, but we know for a fact that for some reason the boat jerked, So obviously the boat jerked and I fell forward and I fell off. And in the matter of like 5 seconds, I was falling off the edge of the boat into the water and the boat was running over me. Now, I wasn't wearing a life jacket when this happened, and that's actually, later on we figured out that that actually saved my life, which is weird to think about, like, hey, life jacket could have killed someone? No. Life jackets make you buoyant, obviously, and the more buoyant I would have been, the closer to the propeller I would have been. So instead of just having my calf and my toes and my butt cheek all that messed up, it would have been more like, so I mean, thank God I wasn't wearing a life jacket. Oh, quick disclaimer. I just want everyone to know that this isn't something that's like hard for me to talk about, or like a really emotional, serious story. Like, I love talking about this. I think it's a great story. I think it's really unique. So please do not be like, oh, I'm so sorry, that's so sad, I can't believe that happened to you, in the comments, because now I have a dope story to tell once in a while, and I always have a paper to write about. Anyways, back to the story. So 5 seconds ran me over, and I just don't remember falling off or going underneath the boat, but I remember treading water and looking at the boat that I was just on that just ran me over. And I didn't feel an intense pain yet. I kind of just felt a stinging in my left calf. So I was just, treading water. You use your feet to tread, and I was using both my legs, and I noticed that I couldn't use my left one as well because it hurt. So then that's when I kind of realized, like, oh shit, like, that might be a little messed up. So understandably, my dad freaked the hell out. He stopped no, he didn't even turn the boat off. He just jumped into the water and swam towards me. And my mom couldn't even figure out how to turn off the boat. So it's just me and my dad in the water, treading water. And my mom's on the boat screaming at, I can't turn this off, how do you turn this off, Chris? Chris is my dad's name. And my brother was still on the boat too, and she's like, Joseph, help me, please help me. And he was probably like, I can't even imagine what he felt like that day. He was like a little kid. Anyways, she finally got the boat turned off. So she jumped in the water too. Sorry, this is really annoying me. So she jumped in the water too. She brought like a noodle to help us float, and we all swam back to the boat. They were kind of, helping me float and swim and everything. So we get to the edge of the boat, and it's the kind of boat where you have to like take the ladder out of a little compartment and then attach it on so people can climb up. Like, it wasn't just one you could just flip down. So we're treading water. Joseph, come on, hurry up, put the ladder out. And the poor kid, he's so frazzled. He's already crying at this point, I think, and he's trying to figure out how to put this ladder out. So he finally gets it. Thank God. We still haven't even called the police yet. I think at this point there was somebody fishing kind of near us, and he saw like, hey, something's not right over there. I don't know if he called the police yet, but he definitely noticed us. I know someone did. So we get up, we're climbing up the ladder. I'm going first, and I noticed that I couldn't put pressure on my left leg on the ladder that was still underneath the water. Now, none of us have looked at it yet. We don't know what it looks like, how bad it is, if I even have a leg left. So I'm using my knees to climb up, and I'm gonna demonstrate this for you. So I'm, climbing up using my knees, and as I'm climbing, I look back, and my legs are outstretched out of the water so I can see, and all I see is on the back part of my leg, this is the scar, I'll show you a better picture later on, but on this back part, it was from here to here, and it was just torn open. I could see my muscle, I could see my bone, I could see all of my tendons, and the weirdest thing was it wasn't even bleeding. So after I saw that, I was like, oh hell no, that is the nastiest thing I've ever seen in my life. So now I go into like not even moving, complete oh my god, panic, that kind of thing. And don't really remember getting back completely on the boat. I just remember seeing that and then things kind of going hazy for me. So I guess what happened is they got me onto the boat. I don't remember the police being called or the ambulance. But the next thing I remember is I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up. Like, I was really nauseous and dizzy because not only of seeing my freaking inside of my leg, but from the blood loss and everything. I don't know if I talked about this yet, but so I have, I'll show you a better picture again, but I have a cut right here, a cut right here, and then a cut right here on the side of my foot, and those were the only things that were bleeding. This huge gash wasn't bleeding at all. We have no idea why, but I was still losing blood because of my toes, and I remember my mom telling me later on that she thought I was gonna lose my toes, so thank God that didn't happen either. But I threw up in my mom's skirt because I was so nauseous and from the blood loss. Then the next thing I remember is something called first responders came, and I guess it's like people with paramedic kind of medical training that were around the area, like they're on duty, but they can do whatever they want. So they were like dressed in like the clothes I was wearing at the time, like beach clothes, spent the day on the boat kind of clothes, that stuff. And they were just making a tourniquet and stuff for my leg and my toes. They were wrapping it up. And I remember this so vividly. They told me a story about how like 20 years previously, same spot in the lake, the lady first responder. So it was like 2 guys and a lady. One of the guys and the lady were married, and then the other guy was just their friend, but the lady and her husband were on a boat tubing. The lady was tubing, the husband was driving a boat, and she fell off, and there's these fish called, I do not remember the name of them. They're like big fish, and she told us a story about how she fell off the tube, and one of these huge ass fish like grabbed the bottom of her foot and dragged her down into the water. Now, I don't know if this is true. She might have just been like gabbing away trying to distract me. Ignore that, sorry. So then I don't know how long they were there for, but then somehow we got the boat docked in this process too. Don't remember that. Next thing I remember is the boat was docked. I was sitting with my mom and the 3 first responders. My brother and my dad were on the dock, and the police were there, and so was the ambulance. Now, Joseph was standing there on the dock by himself. He's literally looking at me and bawling his eyes out. I felt so bad. I remember this, that I remember thinking in my head, hey, he looks really sad for some reason. Maybe I should smile at him. So I was probably smiling at him like just a bloody mess. Not bloody mess. Bloody mess. And just smiling like, it's okay, Joseph, don't cry. Like, the police were breathalyzing my dad, and he blew a 0. They just wanted to make sure, like, he wasn't, I don't know, you know what I mean. But they were breathalyzing him. He was really mad about that because he didn't want the police to do it in front of his family and everything, but nothing obviously happened with that. Like, he was perfectly sober, no foul play or anything. But I vaguely remember being put onto the stretcher. I got wheeled into the ambulance off of the dock, and then they started pumping me with morphine. Don't remember them injecting IV or anything. I'm sorry, I'm going to be saying I don't remember for a lot of this, but they injected me with morphine, and I remember thinking, hey, these paramedic ladies, they're being awful nice to me. I'm going to tell this lady I liked her shirt, even though I did not like her shirt, but I remember saying, hey, I like your shirt. And she didn't even appreciate it that much, probably because this weird kid who just fell off a boat is telling her she likes her shirt, and she's like busy trying to make sure I don't die or whatever. But my mom got to come with. My brother and my dad took the car. Don't know how they got back to the car. But we got into the hospital, the nearest hospital. Now keep in mind, we were in like nowhere, Michigan. Like, this hospital was small. So I'm laying in the bed, the hospital bed, in this like ER room, and I remember them cutting off my swimsuit bottoms, which I was like, hey, no thank you, please don't do that. I had no say in the matter, obviously. And then at that point I figured out that the morphine wasn't working. So throughout this story, medications are going to be like not misadministered, but like not written down properly, and they keep using morphine even though I told them it wasn't enough, and they can only give you a certain amount, so that'll come into play later. But told them, hey, this morphine isn't working that well, like give me something else or up the dosage. Obviously I wasn't saying this because I was like, So they cut off my swimsuit bottoms, and some lady doctor was looking at my leg, and she was like, yeah, I can't operate on this. This is like, you need a plastic surgeon. And the closest plastic surgeon was in Madison, Wisconsin, which was 2.5 hours away. So guess what your girl got to do? She got to be airlifted to Madison, Wisconsin. That was so cool. I wish I wasn't on so many drugs so I remembered it, but yes, y'all, I've been in a helicopter. Mess with me. Now, this part was not funny when it happened, but looking back, like, we all laugh about it now. So they're like, yeah, your daughter needs to be airlifted to Madison. It's a 2.5 hour drive, but it'll take about 45 minutes through helicopter. And time was of the essence because I have an open wound. It could be infected right now. It has lake water in it, all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, but here's the catch. You can't come in the helicopter, meaning my mom couldn't come with me. So she's like, what do you mean I can't come? And my brother and my dad aren't here yet at the hospital. So she starts let me just calm down. She starts throwing an ultimate adult tantrum. She's like, no, I am going with, this is my daughter, she's so hurt right now, I am coming with, there's no way. And at this exact moment when she was having this meltdown, thank God my brother and my dad got there. So they, I don't know what happened, but they calmed her down and reasoned with her, saying like, you can't come, like, I'm so sorry, like, stop throwing a fit right now. We need to get this show on the road, have this little girl airlifted. So I remember I was like wrapped up in blankets, not strapped down, but I was literally like a human burrito. I had no pants on. Remember, they cut off my swimsuit bottoms. And I'm like swaddled in this blanket. I'm full of so many drugs. And I'm just laying there in my raised up bed, swaddled next to the helicopter, and my family's standing there, and they're like bye, and I'm like, this is so fun, I'm gonna go in a helicopter. But I was so hot. I remember that. That's the only thing I remember about the helicopter ride, was I was sweltering. So they left because they had a 2.5 hour drive, and obviously I'd get there before them. So I don't remember being airlifted. I remember there was a nurse next to me and a pilot, and they had on those headphones because it's so loud, but I didn't have headphones on, so if I needed anything, they're like, screw you, like, you don't get a headset. I wanted a cool headset, guys. So the trip seriously felt so short. It's probably because of the drugs. I was on so many drugs, you have no idea. That's another reason why this is such a foggy memory. But we get to the hospital in Madison, and it's a children's hospital, but I didn't know this before this happened, but apparently if a children's hospital is the closest hospital to you and you've had like a really bad accident and you need to be rushed to an ER, they'll take you to that children's hospital. No, I mean, that makes sense, but I just never like thought that, you know what I mean? So I'm sitting in this room by myself. There's nurses coming in and out, and I kept telling this one Asian male nurse, I'm like, hey, can I have some water? I'm really thirsty. And he keeps saying, oh yeah, 1 second, just give me a second, you know, just 1 second. Yep, 1 second, I'll be right back, and then I'll get you water. And he never got me water. But I was laying there waiting for my parents, still on drugs. And I was looking out the doors, and this man's was wheeled like People that were wheeling him were literally running top speed, pushing his cart with him in the bed. He was a bloody mess. Like, that guy, R.I.P., he's probably dead because I've never seen so much blood in my entire life. But that was not fun to see by myself in an ER room, dying. I wasn't dying, but in pain. So, let me tell you about the medicine. So they had me on this new medicine. Don't know what it's called, but it worked really, really well for about 15 minutes, and then they had to redose it. So they had to like push the button and give me more. I don't know why. I don't even know if this is true. I just remember that it was like there'd be times when I wouldn't have it because I was in a lot of pain. So they were starting to get really lacking on my doses, and it was really busy that day at the children's hospital. That's what I heard. Don't know why, like, everyone decided to fall down and get hurt and die that day, but they were understaffed, I think. And this little short, like, not Middle Eastern, like a Russian guy came in. He's an old man. He's got like nurses and stuff with him, and they start cleaning, and he's not even being nice to me. I'm still by myself, and he's like, yep, I'm your doctor. I'm a plastic surgeon. I'm gonna be doing up your leg today, ma'am. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna start right now. And I was like, oh, what do you mean right now? My mommy's not here yet to hold my hand. So they call my parents, and they're like, hey, like, we really have to start. Like, there could be risk of infection. We haven't even cleaned this yet. The longer we wait, the worse the outcome is going to be. And my mom was like, you better listen up here, Asian male nurse. You're not going to touch anything on that little girl until I get there, or I'm going to murder you with fire. So don't do it. I just imagine it went down like that. I'm sure it was much more polite, but I know she was upset. Very upset, as one would understandably think. So they finally get there, literally right before this man starts digging in on me. And now the part where my pain medication doses comes into play. They started the surgery, and the first thing they had to do was either they had to numb it first, or they had to power wash, like clean it first. Let's just pretend that numbing came first. So I was on no pain medication because nobody was keeping up with it, which is like understandable. I know you're busy and understaffed. So it's like, you know, a needle like this, and the actual needle is like this long, and then, you know, it's like this. And so that would hurt if it was just in your regular non-hurt flesh, but they were shoving a bunch of these inside of my wound and just injecting a bunch of numbing stuff in it. And my brother to this day tells me that he remembers my bloody murder screams from the waiting room. I was screaming so loud. I thought I was gonna die. My mom was crying because I was screaming so loud. I think she probably felt so bad and couldn't do anything. So they numbed it, and then they took like a literal power washer and were power washing it because of the lake water and everything. And y'all know lake water nasty. But they did that. They must have redone my dose because I don't really remember what happened after that. But what they had to do, the reason they needed a plastic surgeon was because, so I don't know if you can see this, but there is two cuts. So there's one here and there's one here. So now this one had this part to attach to, so they sewed it closed right here. So they had enough skin to pull it closed and keep it closed. But for this bottom scar, they didn't, the only skin they had is this little patch of unbroken skin. So they need a plastic surgeon because they're more precise. And because this man's literally had to pull my leg closed like this. Like, I kid you not, I wish I had pictures to show you, but this thing was like this, and they had to pull it closed. So they needed to be really careful with this skin right here. Otherwise, I would have to get a skin graft, which they wanted to prevent because that's really painful. It would be two wounds healing the same exact time and everything. So he did the plastic surgery and everything. He turned out to be really nice, I guess, but I didn't like him because he wasn't like friendly to me or anything. So they finished the surgery. Don't remember what happened after that. I just remember that night my brother and my dad drove back to Michigan 2.5 hours away to get all of our stuff to make sure, like, because obviously we were going home after that. We were not going back to vacation in Michigan. So that night my mom had to sleep in the hospital room with me. And there was this overhead light above where I was sleeping, and we couldn't figure out how to turn it off. And so my mom had to sleep in this chair next to my bed with this light on above me. And obviously I didn't care about any light with sleeping because I was on so many drugs and antibiotics, like just so much. Anyways, so the next day, the only thing I remember about that is my mom was somewhere else. She's probably with my mom or on the phone or with someone, because obviously she had to call and tell everyone, because I was already on Facebook in 8th grade like, guys, I just fell off a boat, haha. Not haha, but I was telling everyone on Facebook, posting it as my status, because I was like, since I got seriously hurt, I'm gonna take advantage of it and I'm gonna let everyone know. Maybe they'll send me gifts and stuff to make me feel better. So I'm gonna drink some water. Okay. So my nurse, that next day, I guess she was pregnant, and because I was taking pain medications on an empty stomach, I was eating these cheddar bunnies and I threw them up, and the pregnant nurse told me, like, hey, like, you have the least stinky puke I've ever smelled because I'm pregnant and this doesn't even make me want to puke. So I was like, hell yeah, like, where's my award? Like, I felt good about that. Don't remember anything else for that day, but I do remember being wheeled out to the car in a wheelchair. And I couldn't put any pressure on my left leg that was sutured up because they didn't want that stitch to that skinny piece of skin to rip, because then I'd have to get the skin graft. So I couldn't put any pressure on it at all. And they couldn't get me into the car, my mom and my dad, so this random stranger helped, and he put his hand like this, and you know, they're lifting me up like this, and I remember the grip he had, somehow it pinched me or something, and I had a bruise under there and it hurt for a long time. I remember that. And then for the car ride home, I remember I was getting really nauseous because the pain medications, again, haven't eaten. So they gave me my brother's pillowcase, which he did not like, in case I threw up, and then I guess I just fell asleep. So I somehow got home, blah blah blah. I had to sleep on my couch in my family room because there was no way they could get me up the stairs without putting pressure on my leg. So they had to buy one of those old people toilets that it's just a toilet you can literally put anywhere. It's just a stand with little handles and like a seat with a toilet seat and a bucket that you just pee and poop in. And I had to go to the bathroom in that, and that was really not fun because I'd be sitting in the family room with my family watching a movie, and I would have to go to the bathroom, and they would all have to leave the room so I could go pee-pee. So that was really sad. But a lot of people, like my aunts and friends, came over and they brought me like big baskets full of like snacks and magazines just so I'd have stuff to do. I was so spoiled when I fell off the boat. There's a permanent indent in that couch that I slept on from my body because it was there for so long. But after that, I was finally able to get up and move around, and my muscles had atrophied because I hadn't used them. So they were like really jello-y. It was really weird, and it took me a really long time to be able to walk normal. So I would walk with a limp because I don't know if you know anything about muscles, but so first of all, they look like Tootsie Rolls. I saw it, my own muscle. Yeah, I saw my own muscle. And the way muscles work is they're like stretchy, like a rubber band, and if you don't use them for a while, they just get really taut, so you can't stretch them at all. So instead of being able to walk like this, I had to walk like this because that muscle wouldn't stretch. So every time I put my foot all the way to the ground, it would hurt so bad because there was no stretch to that muscle. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. So I walked with a limp for a long time. I guess I should talk about my other scars. So I'm just going to show you. So the propeller also cut my butt area. So there is a scar. There's a scar right here. And we know it's from the boat because it's a clean line. Like, it's super just, like, it looks sliced, which is what would be from the boat propeller. And then I'm gonna show you like this. So this is, ignore my hairy legs, but that is also from the boat. And then for my toes, you can't really see this side anymore. It's all healed. And then for these toes, hold on. I'm sorry for anyone who hates feet, but there's a scar right here. There's a scar right here. You can see where the stitches were. And then there's one right here. So just another look at this. You can't see, oh, you can see it a little bit, but that is also from the boat. And also one day when I was just sitting on the couch, my mom noticed that, I'm not gonna show you this one, but kind of on the inside of my butt cheek, there was another little scar, or scratch at the time because it wasn't healed, and that was a clean slice too, so that's also from the boat. So that is something else that could have gone wrong. If the boat propeller was that close to my, butt area, it could have ripped open that butt area completely, if you know what I'm saying. Like, hole to hole ripped open. I can't even imagine. Like, I can't express to you enough how lucky I know I am, because that is so wicked. Like, how many people do you know that has fallen off a boat, got run over by the boat, not only lived, but like has had that happen to them? Probably no one. So I mean, obviously I didn't like that situation when it happened, but like, I'm not mad about it at all now. So that is pretty much the entire story of how I fell off a boat and got run over. It's really nice to know that I can make a title, how I fell off a boat or whatever, and actually have it not be clickbait. If you guys have any more questions about this story, you can contact me on any of my social media. I'll link all this below. In case you have any questions, feel free to ask me or ask me in the comments. I hope you guys liked this. If you want to hear any more story times from me, let me know, because I'm sure I can rack my brain for a few that are pretty interesting, because let me tell you, I've had some wild shit happen to me. So, thank you guys for watching. Again, I hope you liked this video. See you next week.